January 18th, 3:14 a.m. The tap in the kitchen is dripping. I know this because the silence in the apartment is so heavy it has a physical weight, like wet wool pressed against my eardrums. Every 3 seconds, there is a metallic tink. It's not the sound of water. It's the sound of gravity winning. I am sitting on the floor of the hallway. I don't remember sitting down. I was walking to the bathroom to brush my teeth, and somewhere between the bedroom door and the linen closet, the floor simply seemed like a more logical place to be. I looked at my hand. It was resting on my knee, pale and veined, like a piece of marble that hadn't been polished yet. I tried to move my index finger. There was a delay, a fraction of a second where the command left my brain, traveled down the wire of my spine, and arrived at the meat of my hand, only to find the door locked. Then it moved. A twitch. It felt like watching a stranger move through a window. I should get up. The carpet is scratching my thighs, but the effort required to gather my bones and stack them on top of one another feels monumental, like trying to build a cathedral out of toothpicks in a windstorm. So I stay. I listen to the tink. I realize that if I never moved again, the room would eventually just grow around me. The dust would settle on my shoulders, the mold would bloom in the kitchen, and I would simply become part of the architecture. The performance. The sun came up, though I didn't see it happen. The light just bled into the room, gray and sickly at first, then a sharp, aggressive yellow. I am at my desk by 9 a.m. "Morning, Elias," Sarah says. She's holding a ceramic mug with a quote about Mondays. I turn my head. I have practiced the angle, a 15-degree tilt, a slight softening of the eyes, and a lifting of the corners of the mouth. It's a mechanical process. "Morning," I say. The word sounds hollow. It's a vibration in my throat that I've learned to shape into a greeting. I wonder if she can hear the static behind it. I wonder if she notices that my eyes aren't actually looking at her, but at the space approximately 2 inches behind her left ear. She doesn't. She smiles back and walks away. I look at my computer screen. The spreadsheets are a grid of tiny boxes, each one demanding a piece of my attention. I give them nothing. I watch the cursor blink. On, off, on, off. It is the heartbeat of the office. I am 32 years old. I have a 401k. I have a lease. I have a gym membership I used 3 weeks ago. From the outside, I am a functional human being. I am a son who calls his mother on Sundays. I am a neighbor who nods when taking out the trash. But inside, the pilot light has gone out. There was no trauma, no grand tragedy to point to, no sudden death or shattering heartbreak. It was a slow leak, a pinprick in the hull of my soul that I didn't notice until the water was at my chin. I am not sad. Sadness has a shape. Sadness is heavy. This is light. This is the feeling of being made of styrofoam. I pick up a pen. I hold it until the plastic grows warm against my skin. I try to remember what it feels like to want something, to want a coffee, or a promotion, or a touch. Nothing. Just the hum of the air conditioning. The mirror. The bathroom at work is tiled in a white so bright it hurts. It smells of industrial lemon and bleach. I stood at the sink and splashed cold water on my face. I looked up. The man in the mirror was familiar in the way a celebrity is familiar. I recognized the shape of the nose, the thinness of the lips, the way the hair parted on the right side. But the connection, the wire that says, "This is me," was severed. I leaned in closer. I opened my eyes as wide as they would go. I looked into the pupils, those black holes in the center of the iris. I expected to see a spark, a flicker of a person, a ghost in the machine. There was only a reflection of the fluorescent lights. I reached out and touched the glass. It was cold. I traced the outline of my own jaw. The person in the mirror did the same, but his movements felt scripted. I began to wonder if I was the one mimicking him. Maybe the real Elias was on the other side of the glass, and I was just the shadow he cast into this world to go to work and pay the electric bill. I stayed there for 20 minutes. No one came in. The silence of the bathroom was deafening, a roar of empty space. I realized then that I could disappear right here, between the tile and the porcelain, and it wouldn't change the temperature of the room. Distortion time has stopped being a river. It's now a series of stagnant ponds. I find myself in places without knowing how I arrived. I'll be standing in the grocery store aisle, staring at a wall of cereal boxes, and suddenly realize I've been there for 10 minutes. The colors are too loud. The crinkle of the plastic bag sounds like gunfire. I bought a carton of eggs yesterday. When I got home, I put them in the cupboard instead of the fridge. I found them today. I didn't throw them out. I just looked at them, sitting there next to the pasta, and felt a strange envy. They were contained. They had a shell. They were exactly what they were supposed to be. I sat on my sofa and watched the light move across the floor. I thought about calling someone. Who? My mother. Hi, Mom. I think I'm evaporating. Did you eat enough protein today, Elias? My friend, Mark. Hey, man. I feel like a background character in a movie that's already finished filming. Classic burnout, bro. Let's grab a beer Friday. The words don't exist in their vocabulary. People speak in colors, and I have become a shade of gray that the human eye isn't evolved to see. I walked to the window. Down on the street, people were hurrying. They had destinations. They had internal monologues filled with grocery lists and anxieties and lusts. I watched a woman trip on the curb. She looked embarrassed. She adjusted her bag and looked around to see if anyone saw. I felt a sharp, stabbing pang of jealousy. She felt embarrassment. She felt the sting of the pavement. She was there. I pressed my forehead against the glass. It was vibrating from the traffic below. I tried to find a feeling. I tried to think of something that would make me cry or laugh. I thought of a childhood dog. Nothing. I thought of the time I almost drowned in a lake at age 7. Nothing. I am a hollowed-out tree. The bark is still there, holding the shape, but the heartwood is gone, replaced by a cool, damp wind. The snap. It happened on a Tuesday. Tuesdays are the cruelest days because they lack the fresh hope of Monday or the exhausted relief of Friday. They are the stagnant middle. I was standing on the subway platform. It was rush hour. The air was thick with the smell of damp coats, old breath, and the ozone of the tracks. Hundreds of us stood there, a herd of cattle in expensive shoes. The yellow line on the floor was the only thing keeping us from the void. I looked at the people around me. They were all looking at their phones. Their faces were lit from below by a pale blue light, making them look like a gallery of ghosts. I felt a sudden, terrifying sense of vertigo. Not the fear of falling, but the fear that I had already fallen and simply hadn't hit the ground yet. The train roared into the station. The wind it pushed ahead of it was hot and smelled of burnt metal. As the doors slid open, a man pushed past me. He hit my shoulder hard. "Watch it," he muttered, not even looking back. I stayed still. I didn't move. I didn't feel the impact in my mind, only the physical sway of my body. And then, something snapped. It wasn't a loud noise. It wasn't a breakdown. It was the sound of a final thread breaking. A soft pop, like a light bulb, burning out in a distant room. I didn't board the train. I stood there as the doors closed. I watched the faces behind the glass, blurred, smeary portraits of humanity, as they were pulled away into the dark tunnel. I realized I wasn't waiting for the next train. I wasn't waiting for anything. The realization was crystal clear, cold as an ice cube on the tongue. I am not here. I haven't been here for a long time. This body, this Elias, is just a suit of clothes that the universe forgot to take to the dry cleaners. I walked out of the station. I didn't go to work. I didn't go home. The absence I walked until the sun went down. I walked through neighborhoods I didn't recognize, past parks where children played, past bars where people laughed too loudly at jokes that weren't funny. I felt invisible, not in a supernatural way, but in the way a mailbox is invisible. People walked around me. They adjusted their path by a few inches to avoid colliding with me, but their eyes never registered my presence. I was a glitch in their peripheral vision. I ended up at a 24-hour diner. The neon sign buzzed, a dying insect's hum. I sat in a vinyl booth that was cracked and held together with silver duct tape. A waitress came over. She looked tired. Her name tag said Brenda. "Coffee?" she asked. I looked at her. I wanted to tell her, I wanted to say, "Brenda, I think I've reached the edge of the world. I think if I walk one more block, I'll just step off into a white screen." "Black," I said. She poured the coffee. It was transparently brown and smelled like scorched beans. I watched the steam rise. It twisted and turned, beautiful and aimless, before vanishing into the air of the diner. That was me. The steam. I looked at my reflection in the window of the diner. The darkness outside made the glass a perfect mirror. I saw the diner behind me. I saw the empty booths, the glowing pie case, the clock on the wall ticking toward midnight. But I didn't see myself. I saw the coat. I saw the shape of a person sitting in the booth. I saw the coffee cup hovering where a hand should be. But there was no substance to it. It was like a hole in the shape of a man, cut out of the fabric of the night. I blinked. The image didn't change. I reached up to touch my face. My fingers felt skin, stubble, the warmth of blood, the wetness of an eye. But the mirror showed a hand touching air. I wasn't scared. That was the most unsettling part. I felt a profound sense of relief. The struggle to be a person, to maintain the fiction of Elias, to remember the birthdays and the passwords and the way to smile at Sarah, it was over. I am an absence. I am the silence between two notes of music. The end I left, $5 on the table, and walked out. The city was quiet now. The streetlights stretched out in a long amber line, illuminating nothing but the asphalt. I walked back to my apartment. I climbed the stairs. I unlocked the door. The apartment smelled of me, or what used to be me. Stale air, laundry detergent, the lingering scent of an apple I'd eaten 2 days ago. It felt like a museum dedicated to a forgotten civilization. I went into the bedroom. I didn't turn on the light. I lay down on the bed, fully clothed. I stared at the ceiling. The shadows from the trees outside danced across the plaster, shifting and stretching like ink in water. I realized that tomorrow, the alarm would go off. Sarah would ask how my evening was. My mother would call on Sunday. The mail would continue to arrive. Bills, catalogs, letters addressed to a name I no longer felt ownership of. The world is a very large place, and it is very good at filling gaps. It would continue to function around the hole I had left. It would treat the hole as if it were a solid object. It would speak to the hole, and the hole would respond with the correct vibrations. I closed my eyes. The drip in the kitchen was still going. Tink, tink, tink. I am not dead. That would be too dramatic. I am simply no longer a participant. I am a ghost who hasn't had the decency to leave the room. The most terrifying thing about being forgotten isn't that people stop looking at you. It's that they keep looking at you, but they see someone else, someone who isn't there. And you realize that even when you were real, you were only ever a ghost. They were dreaming into existence. I am the silence after the bell has stopped ringing. I am the space where a man used to be. The drip stopped, or maybe I just stopped hearing it. Existence is a habit I am finally beginning to break.